This happened a few weeks ago. I had just moved into my new home in Valparaíso. I thought living here would spark my writing. I was a freelance journalist trying to escape my recent breakup. The colorful houses and the view of the ocean made it feel perfect. For the first few days, everything was normal. I settled into my routine, taking notes on local folklore. But then, one night, I heard music drifting through my window. Soft waltz music. It was soothing, yet something about it felt strange. I figured it was a neighbor celebrating and went back to writing. As the days passed, the music returned every night. It grew louder, mixed with whispers. I felt them creeping through the walls. Each night, my heart raced when the melody filled my room. It became hard to focus on my notes. I started to see shadows outside my window. They darted away when I glanced over. I thought it was just my imagination. Then, strange things began to appear on my doorstep. Little trinkets, a broken locket, a faded photograph, and a small wooden doll. Each item felt wrong. I got chills running down my spine. Every night, I lay in bed with the music in my head, searching for answers. Were these tied to the stories I was writing about? I asked the locals about Las Tres Pascualas, but their reactions were mixed. Some laughed it off. Others looked nervous, as if they knew something I didn't. The more I dug, the more I questioned myself. I felt like I was losing my grip. I couldn't sleep. The music haunted me, mixing with the whispers. My notes started to feel like madness. People began to avoid my questions. An invisible wall grew between us. I felt isolated. Then one night, as the music rose to a sinister pitch, I stood by my window. I listened closely. I felt cold fear creeping up my spine. Suddenly, the music stopped. I caught a glimpse of a figure outside, just standing there, staring at me. I wanted to run. My heart raced with terror. In that silence, I took a breath. I needed to confront whatever it was. I turned around quickly, but there was no one behind me. I felt a chill grip my heart. The next day, I found another trinket, a small silver ring. It was wrapped in a piece of cloth with strange symbols. I felt unease wash over me. I didn't know what to do next. That night, the music was louder than ever. I closed my eyes, hoping it would stop. But then the whispers came back, swirling around me. They called my name, soft at first, like a lover's whisper. I was terrified. I opened my eyes to see shadows dancing outside my window. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I was drawn to them. My heart was pounding. For a moment, I felt like they were reaching for me, urging me to come closer. Then I blinked, and they were gone. But I could still hear the whispers. I felt trapped, lost in a melody that wouldn't let me go. The next day, I wrestled with myself. I had to know more about Las Tres Pascualas. The stories felt like they were crawling under my skin, and I refused to be a prisoner in my own house. With a pounding heart, I decided to visit the local library. I hoped to find more information buried in dusty volumes. As I walked through the narrow, winding streets, I noticed more than just the colorful houses. The locals whispered among themselves, and their eyes darted toward me, as if they sensed my determination. I ignored them and pushed open the heavy door of the library. Inside, the air was thick and musty. Old books lined the shelves, and the silence felt oppressive. I asked the librarian about Las Tres Pascualas, and she looked at me with caution. "Be careful what you seek," she warned. Her tone sent a shiver down my spine, but I was resolute. After hours of searching, I found a small book tucked away in a corner. The cover was worn, and the pages smelled ancient. As I flipped through the book, I stumbled upon an unsettling tale. It spoke of three sisters known for their enchanting beauty and tragic fate. Legend had it they danced every night to a haunting melody, capturing the unsuspecting souls of those who dared to listen. I felt a chill wash over me. The description matched my eerie nightly experiences. But it didn't end there. The book mentioned a mysterious object that could summon them. The last known sighting of such an object was decades ago. My breathing picked up. What if someone still had it? Shaking off my unease, I delved deeper into the story. The last chapter revealed a ritual tied to the sisters. It involved offerings, items that had belonged to someone lost. I felt sick. The trinkets on my doorstep suddenly made sense. With each revelation, my pulse quickened, but I couldn't shake a nagging feeling that I was being watched. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone there. When I finally left the library, I was greeted by the vibrant colors of Valparaíso, but they felt tainted now. I stumbled down the street, trying to process everything I had uncovered. My thoughts were interrupted by a voice behind me. You shouldn't be asking questions about them. It was a young woman, her face pale against the sunlight. Her eyes were wide with fear. Why? What do you know? I pressed, desperate for answers. They're hungry, she whispered, glancing around nervously. And you're drawing their attention. You need to stop. Before I could respond, she hurried away, leaving me alone with her warning. My mind raced. What did she mean? Was I really in danger? As the sun began to set, I felt a familiar unease creep back in. The shadows in the streets seemed to stretch longer, and the cool air carried an echo of that haunting melody. That's when I noticed something shiny on the ground. It was a small, delicate pendant, unlike anything I'd seen before. It shimmered with an unsettling beauty. And just as I bent down to pick it up, I heard the music begin again, louder and more insistent than ever. I froze, the pendant inches from my fingers. The melody wrapped around me, threading its way into my mind. Panic surged through me. What if picking it up was a mistake? I hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. I glanced around. The street was empty, except for swirling leaves in the faint breeze. The music seemed to pulse in the silence, as if calling to me, and I felt a magnetic pull toward the pendant. Just as I reached out again, a sudden silence fell, snuffing out the haunting notes like a candle's flame. I snatched the pendant and slipped it into my pocket, my hands trembling. Maybe it was a good luck charm, a way to protect myself. Or maybe it was a trap. The chilling warnings fluttered in my mind. I started to walk home faster, my heart racing. Shadows danced behind me, and the air felt thicker, heavier. When I reached my house, the front door was ajar, swinging slightly as if inviting me in. My stomach dropped. I was certain I had locked it before I left. Cautiously, I stepped inside and closed the door behind me, the sound echoing in the quiet hallway. I called out, "Hello?" My voice wavered. No answer, just the familiar creaks of the old house. I took a step forward, but stopped dead when I saw it. The small table by the entrance was bare. All the trinkets I had collected were gone. My heart sank. What if they were meant as offerings? Was this connected to the sisters? I moved through the house, searching each room, but it was empty. I reached my bedroom, then froze. There on my bed lay a piece of paper, folded neatly. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was an old photograph, worn at the edges. It showed 3 beautiful young women, their faces striking yet haunting. Behind them, a moody landscape mirrored the picturesque chaos of Valparaíso. I turned it over, and a single name was scrawled across the back, Pascuala. A chill gripped me. I had uncovered something dangerous without even meaning to. Had I become part of their story? I dropped the photo, heart pounding, and stepped back. The pendant felt heavier in my pocket.
Then I heard it again. The faintest whisper of the music began, dancing through the air. The sound twisted and turned, as if beckoning me to follow. My instinct screamed at me to run, but curiosity tied my feet to the floor. What if the sisters wanted more than just a dance? What if the music was a call to return something lost? I couldn't stay here, not with that melody echoing in my ears. I needed answers. But as I turned to leave the room, the air grew cold. Something shifted behind me. My breath caught. I wasn't alone anymore. Someone was in my house. I turned slowly, my heart hammering like a drum in my chest. In the dim light of my bedroom, I made out a figure lurking in the shadows. It was a woman, her features obscured, but her presence felt distinct, powerful, and unsettling. "What do you want?" I managed to breathe, my voice barely more than a whisper. She stepped forward, and I froze.
As the moonlight fell on her face, I recognized her. The photograph, one of the sisters, the same haunting beauty, the same mystery that had drawn me in from the very start. My head spun with questions. How could she be here? Had I summoned her? "Pascuala," I said, unsure if I should speak her name. My hands trembled, and I clutched the pendant tightly in my pocket as if it could protect me. She regarded me with eyes that glinted with secrets. "You have something that belongs to us." Her voice was melodic, each word wrapping around me like the music. It sent chills through my body. "What do you mean? I don't understand." My throat felt tight, panic surging again. Something deep inside me knew that this was not just a chance encounter. I had stirred something up. "Everything is intertwined," she said, a haunting smile barely flickering at the corners of her lips. "You picked up the pendant. You awakened the past. The music calls for those who are willing to listen." I took a step back, my mind racing. "What do you want me to do?" "To return what was taken." Her gaze intensified, like a torch illuminating the corners of my darkened thoughts. Before I could process her words, she reached out and touched the pendant in my pocket with the tips of her fingers. A spark leaped between us, and I gasped, the room going momentarily dark. I stumbled backward, confusion battling with fear. The shadows seemed to flicker, distort, and in that instant, I understood that this was not just a regular encounter. Then, just as quickly as it had dimmed, the light returned, and Pascuala was gone, leaving me alone again. My heart raced as I stood there, breathless, clutching the pendant. It was now warm against my palm, pulsing slightly. "Return what was taken," I whispered to myself. I had become ensnared in a web woven by the sisters. What did they want? What was the past that needed to be restored? A sudden thought hit me. The trinkets, the offerings. They were more than just pieces of my life. They were part of the symphony the sisters created, a melody I had unwittingly disrupted. I had to find out more. I hurried to my laptop, desperate to uncover the history behind the sisters. I searched for their names, for clues, anything that could guide me. Each click of the mouse intensified my dread. The rhythm of the music pulsed in my ears again, louder now. As the screen lit up with old articles and tales, I felt something shift behind me. My breath hitched. Someone, or something, was approaching, waiting just out of sight. I turned around, bracing myself for whatever came next. The hairs on my neck stood up as I turned, ready to confront whatever was creeping closer. But there was nothing, just silence. I stepped back into the faint light from my laptop, my heart still racing. Maybe it was my imagination. The shadows played tricks.
And I had just spoken with a ghost. A chill ran down my spine. I took a deep breath, trying to ground myself, focus on the screen.
That's what I needed to do. I scanned the articles that filled the page, scanning headlines that captured glimpses of the sister's tale. Disappearance, curse, and legend. The words mixed and swirled in my mind, forming a picture I wasn't sure I wanted to see. That's when I spotted something that made my stomach drop. An old photograph. It showed 3 women dressed in long, flowing white dresses, looking out over a cliff into the ocean. Their faces were serene, but their eyes... There was something in their eyes that felt like an invitation and a warning all at once. I clicked on the image, my pulse quickening. A caption read, "The Sisters of the Sea, Bound by Fate." Below it, more text detailed their tragic story, how they were said to have drowned in the tempestuous waters, their spirits cursed to wander, seeking what was lost. Beneath that was a chilling claim. Those who found their pendant were meant to return it to the water or endure their wrath. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the house. I jumped, nearly knocking my laptop to the floor. My heart raced again, loud enough that I thought it might break free from my chest. I waited, straining to hear. Another bang reverberated from the back of the house, followed by something dragging along the floor. I could feel my body going cold. Having been paralyzed by fear, I forced myself to move. I slipped off my chair and crept toward the hallway that led to the back door. Each step felt like an echo in the stillness. My breath quickened as I approached the source of the noise. The contradictions of fear and curiosity battling within me. I hesitated, wondering if what I might find was something better left unseen. Still, I had to know. The sisters had reached out to me. I had stirred whatever they were after, and now it felt like a presence loomed just beyond the door. As I reached the entrance to the kitchen, my phone buzzed loudly, making me jump. I pulled it from my pocket, ready to answer, but it was just a notification. My heart sank as I reluctantly turned my focus back to the kitchen. I took a deep breath and peeked around the corner. That's when I saw it. The glass door swinging open, slowly, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. I couldn't make out their features, but I felt their gaze on me, piercing and insistent. "Help us," it whispered, and my blood ran cold. I took a step back, the pendant now afire in my pocket. "Who are you?" I managed to gasp, the question hanging in the air like a fragile thread. The figure didn't answer. Instead, they stepped forward into the faint light. And there, illuminated by the silver glow of the moon, I recognized her. Another sister. The third one. "Return what was taken," she echoed, her voice a chilling reminder of the night before. I backed away, my instincts screaming at me to run. But the sense of being pulled deeper into their world was stronger than my fear. I felt trapped, the weight of her gaze anchoring me to that spot. Panic bubbled within me as I stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the rug. I hit the floor hard, the sharp pain jolting me back to the moment. The sister loomed over me, her expression resolute yet filled with sadness. "Why?" I breathed, the question tumbling out. "What happened to you?" "Bound," she said simply, her voice a haunting melody that echoed off the walls. "The sea took us, and we seek what belongs to us." I remembered the pendant, a cold reminder of my inadequacy. I had stumbled into something far beyond me. The sensation of being fated to this moment suffocated me. With every second, the air felt thicker, like the shadows were closing in. Still, I had to do something. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to sound steadier than I felt. Is it the pendant?" Her eyes flickered at the question, revealing a glimmer of hope before she lowered her gaze. "The pendant is a key to our freedom. Return it, and the past may finally rest." "Where?" I whispered, glancing toward the ocean, not far from my home. The waves danced under the moonlight like spirits beckoning me. What if I can't? Then she moved closer, her form almost fading into the shadows. "You must. Only there can we be released. We are not lost. We have been forgotten. We need you to remember." As she spoke, an icy gust swept through the room, extinguishing the warmth nearby and swirling around me. The lights flickered, and I felt a presence swell, filling every corner of the house. Was it them? Were they trying to break through? My heart raced. I pressed my palms against my ears, trying to block out the feelings of dread surfacing around me. "Get away from me!" I shouted, scrambling back toward the living room, desperate to escape the weight of her sorrow. "Running won't save you," she warned, her voice now deeper, more distant. "The tide will come for what is due." I reached the living room and glanced back. She stood at the threshold, the doorway now an ominous portal, shadows embracing her. "Help us," she pleaded again, her voice now entwined with an otherworldly echo. Then, just like that, she vanished as if the shadows swallowed her whole. Intensity thrummed in the air, a new kind of energy that pulsed through the walls. I was left alone, the door now ajar, the night air heavy with anticipation. But I couldn't just leave it here. I had to return the pendant. But could I really face the sea? Every instinct screamed against it, but I felt the sister's call thrumming through me, begging to be answered. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw something glimmer on the coffee table, a faint glow. I stepped closer, and there it was, the pendant, now shimmering as though alive. My breath caught in my throat. That's when I realized the search wasn't over. It had only just begun, and whatever happened next would determine if I could escape their fate too. I stood frozen, the pendant pulsing in the dim light like a heartbeat. My mind raced, trying to piece together what the sister had said. I could feel the weight of her sadness pressing down on me, urging me forward. Still, part of me hesitated. Could I really take the pendant to the sea? What if it made things worse? The last thing I wanted was to summon whatever darker forces lived within the waves. But deep down, I sensed this was my only shot at understanding what had happened to those sisters. I snatched the pendant from the table, its surface cool against my palm. An urge pulled at me, a pull toward the door and the world beyond. I took a shaky breath and stepped outside, the air crisp against my skin. The night was hauntingly silent as I made my way toward the shore. My footsteps crunched against the gravel, each sound magnified in the stillness. I reached the beach, and the moon cast a silvery light over the water, which glimmered like a dark mirror reflecting the stars. "Okay," I whispered to myself, my voice shaking slightly. "You can do this." I closed my eyes, recalling the sister's words. She needed my help, and whether I wanted to or not, it seemed I was the one who had to return what was lost. As I reached the water's edge, a chill shot up my spine. The waves lapped gently at my feet, the cold water gnawing at my ankles. I could have turned back then, but the pendant tugged me forward, as if beckoning to be returned to its rightful place. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned, but the beach remained still. Then I heard it. A soft melody floated in the air, weaving through the night. Was it the sisters? I strained to listen, putting my foot into the water, feeling its pull. The melody grew louder, a haunting sound that both thrilled and terrified me. I felt drawn to it, my heart racing as I looked out over the waves. An uneasy feeling settled in my gut. Then, before I could react, the water surged.
A wave surged forward, stronger than the rest, crashing against my legs. I stumbled back, losing my balance and falling onto the wet sand. Panic rose as the wave receded, leaving my heart pounding in sudden fear. Just then, I noticed something emerging from the water. A figure, pale and ethereal, wading through the shallows. My breath caught. The figure moved to the rhythm of the music, a hair-like veil of seaweed flowing around her. It was one of the sisters, her expression a mix of longing and urgency. "Help us!" she cried out, her voice merging with the waves. "The tide is turning!" I could feel the fear clawing at my throat. This was real. The tide wasn't just about water, it was something much deeper. Panicking, I scrambled to my feet and retreated. The pendant slipped from my fingers and splashed into the water. "No!" I gasped, watching as it sank. Everything began to shift. The melody transformed into an anguished wail that echoed through the night. I turned to run, but the sand turned to mud beneath my feet, pulling me down.
As I struggled, I realized that the sisters' fate wasn't just theirs, it was mine too. The ocean roared, and a dark shadow loomed behind me. I was not alone. Uncertainty crammed my chest as I faced the encroaching tide. I had to make a choice. Would I fight against it, or was this where the story would finally unfold? I didn't have time to think. Panic shot through me like a lightning bolt. I jerked my feet free from the mud and turned to flee, but I could feel a weight on my back, dragging me down. The shadows behind me churned in the water, looming closer with each heartbeat. "Help us!" The sister's voice continued to echo in my mind, but I didn't know how. As I bolted up the beach, I kicked up sand and pebbles. I could barely breathe, fear clawing at my throat. The waves crashed behind me, relentless and angry. I glanced back and saw the glimmer of the sister atop the water, her expression now one of anguish, her arms reaching for something she couldn't grasp. With every frantic step, the ocean roiled. An oppressive force seemed to rise from the depths, shifting the air around me. I looked at the moonlit waves. They swelled, readying themselves for another surge. "Just stop!" I shouted, but my voice was lost in the roar of the ocean. I didn't want to think about the pendant, about what it meant. I didn't want to think about the sisters at all. I just wanted to escape. And yet, despite every instinct telling me to run, a deeper instinct clawed at me to stay. Somehow, I felt tethered to the sisters. I could help them. The thoughts circled in my mind, pushing against my fear. That's when I saw it, a glint beneath the surface, a flash of silver. The pendant! It had resurfaced. Panic mixed with hope as I staggered in the sand, my fear giving way to a desperate determination. I took a breath and stepped closer to the water. The pendant bobbed on the foamy surface, light dancing off it, inviting me to reach out. I couldn't let it slip away again. Okay, just get it," I whispered to myself, heart racing. The music from before twisted back into my mind, a siren's call, urging me to save what was lost. I plunged my hand into the water, its icy grip stealing my breath. I fought against the tide as it tugged at my body, pulling me deeper into the churning depths. My fingers closed around the cold metal of the pendant, and I felt a jolt of warmth course through my body. Just then, another wave crashed, more powerful than before, and I was thrown backwards. My feet slipped from beneath me, and I gasped as the water washed over my head. Desperation filled me. I kicked against the current, fighting my way back up for air. When I finally broke surface, I clutched the pendant tightly in my hand. Everything felt different now. The air crackled with energy, and the moonlight glimmered brighter, as if the world was holding its breath. "Did you feel that?" I shouted, my voice trembling, hoping the sisters could hear me. I didn't know what was coming next, but something inside me said the moment was critical. Suddenly, the water around me turned dark, a clear separation forming between where I stood and the shadowy abyss beyond. The sister appeared again, her gaze burning with urgency. "You must choose," her voice rang out, stronger now. "Will you help us, or will you let the tide take you?" I stared into her eyes, realizing there was no turning back. The tide wasn't just a threat, it was a choice I had to make. The water pulled at me once more, and I stood on the brink of something enormous and terrifying. In that moment, my decision clouded the air around me. What would I do next? I felt the weight of the pendant in my hand, its cool surface grounding me, even as the water surged around my legs. The sister's plea echoed in my mind, and I focused on her familiar face, realizing I couldn't hold back anymore. "Yes, I'll help you," I shouted to the night, unsure if it was loud enough to reach her over the crashing waves. But resolving to act pulled me from my stupor. As soon as the words left my lips, a dark current swept past me, pulling me away from the shore. I stumbled, fighting to keep my balance. The pendant flared to life, warm and vibrant, casting a light that pierced the thick darkness surrounding me. "Follow the light," the sister commanded. Her voice was stronger now, more distinct, guiding me through the tumult. I pushed against the waves, aiming for where her light flickered brightly, a beacon in the chaos. When I reached the spot where the light danced on the surface, the water shifted, revealing the shimmering outline of what looked like an ancient stone structure just beneath. An eerie sense of familiarity washed over me. This was no ordinary place. It felt sacred, steeped in history and mystery. Suddenly, the waves parted, and I glimpsed shadowy figures, more sisters, their faces hauntingly beautiful, but twisted with sorrow. They hovered just below the surface, their eyes searching mine. "Rescue us," they whispered in unison, their voices entwined like a melancholic song. I felt a surge of fear. What could I do? How could I rescue them? They were lost, trapped in a world that felt like a nightmare. I looked for something, anything, that could help break them free from the watery prison. Then, with a gasp of horror, I noticed that their shadows were holding on to something, a shimmering chain anchored at the bottom of the ocean, tethering them to this realm. It was as if they were bound by something darker than the water itself. "Help us break the chains," one sister cried, her voice breaking in desperation. I followed her gaze and saw jagged pieces of metal embedded in the ground. It was the remnants of the chain. That's what held them down. My heart raced as I plunged my hand under the surface, gripping the remnants and trying to pull them free. The ocean fought back. A chilling vortex gripped my ankle, dragging me down with frightening force. The temperature dropped as if I had plunged into a glacier. "Hold on!" I yelled, still tugging at the chains, unwilling to let go. I could feel panic clawing at my insides, strangling me. Each pull sent shockwaves through the water, clouding my vision with swirling sand and debris. "Do it!" another sister urged with a fierce intensity. "You're the only one who can break our curse." With a final surge of determination, I gathered every bit of strength. I gripped the remnants and yanked with everything I had. The metal screeched as it began to release its hold. Then everything went still. I felt a sudden release, and a flood of warmth enveloped me. The sisters erupted from the depths, their forms glowing with light, breaking free from the dark water. I gasped, my head spinning. But before I could process this incredible release, a chilling wind swept over the water, snuffing the brightness. Shadows returned, twisting into monstrous figures among the waves. "Foolish girl," a voice boomed, dark and low. I spun, fear piercing my heart. "You cannot save them. You've only awakened what was sleeping.
Now you must face the consequences." I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet as a monstrous wave began to rise, ready to crash down on me and the freed sisters. This was just the beginning, and I suddenly realized I had unleashed a force far greater than I could control. Terror surged through me as I understood my choice wasn't over. It had only just begun. The monstrous wave loomed over us, towering, filled with an angry energy that felt almost sentient. I instinctively grabbed the pendant again, the warmth of it somehow grounding, a flicker of comfort amidst the chaos. The sisters' ethereal forms hovered around me, illuminated by a glow that was fading in the shadows. They looked at me, hopeful yet desperate, as though I held the final key to their freedom. Panic clawed at my insides, but amidst the impending doom, determination sparked. "We can't let it take us," I shouted, aiming my words at the sisters. "Together, we need to work together." The water roared, and the wave crashed down. But instead of feeling the weight of despair, I saw the sisters nod in unison. As the force of the ocean engulfed us, I felt their presence grow stronger. I closed my eyes and focused, remembering the tales of Las Tres Pascualas, their beauty, their music, their pain. It was time to help them reclaim what they had lost and confront the forces that bound them. "This isn't just your battle," I proclaimed, my voice rising over the roar of the waves. "It's ours." With every ounce of willpower, I held the pendant aloft, letting its light pierce through the darkness gathering around us. Suddenly, the music returned, a soft, haunting melody weaving through the chaos, calling upon the power of the sisters and the depths of the ocean. As the sounds swirled around us, I felt the sisters link their essence to the pendant's light. "Sing with us,"
one sister pleaded, her voice blending with the music, and I instinctively did. I let my voice rise alongside theirs, a chorus that drowned out the crashing waves and shadows that sought to consume us. In that moment, the ocean shuddered. The wave hesitated, the darkness receding just a fraction, momentarily knocked back by the power of our song. It had always been about communion and unity. The sisters needed to reclaim their voices, their stories, and I needed to help them find that. Without warning, the pendant began to glow fiercely. It pulsed in sync with the melody, a heartbeat of its own. The sisters swirled around, their forms growing luminous, as if from the depths of despair they were rising into a light. The shadows snarled, recoiling at our collective power. "Focus on the chains," I commanded, steering the surge of energy toward the remnants that had once bound them. The chains dropped into view, energy converging around them. Together, we pulled at the darkness that still lingered, chanting the names of the sisters, weaving their identities into the song. With one final surge of strength, the chains shattered, and a blinding light enveloped the scene. Everything erupted into a communion of sound and light, and I was swept into a bittersweet release, as if the very fabric of the ocean opened wide, healing itself as it tore through the shadows. Then silence fell. I blinked against the sudden emptiness, light still dancing in my mind, and looked around. The ocean lay calm, its surface glittering like glass. The sisters had vanished, but something profound lingered in the air. I stood alone, the pendant in my trembling hand, the waves now whispering softly in the breeze. Had I really set them free? Or had I awakened something that still lurked deep beneath the surface, unchained, yet still restless? I felt a multitude of questions flood my thoughts, uncertainty creeping in once more. The music had stopped, but in the distance I thought I caught an echo, a remnant sound that followed me as I turned toward home. As I walked back to the shore, the sky brightened steadily. Dawn was breaking. I noticed another glint on the sand, not the pendant, but something else. A small wooden doll, intricate and detailed, face down in the sand. I hesitated and picked it up, feeling a chilling affinity to it. I turned it over, breathless, and recalled the stories of the sisters, but the questions remained, haunting me like a melody that wouldn't fade. Had I done enough? Were they truly free? Or had I merely delayed the inevitable? I took a final glance at the ocean, wondering if the sisters watched me from the depths, or if I had merely conjured them from my own imagination, my musings woven into folklore. With every step toward my home, a shadow, or was it a whisper, lingered at the edges of my consciousness, leaving a deep-seated ache. I would carry this experience with me, a weight of uncertainty that would forever alter the path of my writing and my life. Later, when the sun rose higher, I would return to look for answers. The haunting melody might have faded, but a part of me stayed tethered to the mystery beneath the waves, and maybe it always would.